of the curses of being a programmer is for a while when you start, at least if you're young, you kind of think it's the most important, the most difficult field, and like everyone else is like studying communications and psychology, and it's like blah 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 blah. That's all fake nonsense. Nothing is really real except computer science. Like it's like kind of a real field, but you don't like fully buy into it. And when I started to realize everyone around me is like equally smart at a lot of things, it's like mind blowing because it means all those fields I kind of wrote off as fake nonsense, which I know is a ridiculous viewpoint, but it's the one I had, are actually really real. And one of the immediate implications of that I think a lot of people, a lot of like software engineers like myself, get excited about at about this age when they start reading a lot is the possibility of social engineering and like leadership and the fact that people are kind of almost like automata that can be broken down a little bit. And by that I mean there's like some basic psychological tricks and some basic body language you can learn to read, and they give you quite a lot more insight into how people behave. And there's a bunch of gotchas with this. It seems like it's very tempting to look at this as like, holy shit, I'm like a mastermind. I can control everyone now. But the reality is, you're getting majorly Dunning-Krugered. Like, in order to really do this and be a social engineer, you need years and years and years of work and research. And if you don't have that, it'll just you'll be like basically like going into a code interview and like opening up Vim and just spamming random things and being like, look, I can code. But the side effects are a lot more disastrous if you try to just get people to do what you want with like some random psychology you've read. It's not good. Do not do that. It's also like easy to overlook. There's kind of a lot of hogwash in that field, but there is some legitimate science. It's like don't allow yourself to get distracted by that. And also another thing is, why do you really want to social engineer people? Like the possibility to make yourself popular or just network really well, get yourself jobs. It's like first of all, I think social engineering has this connotation of like controlling other people into doing what you want. And a lot of the time, that doesn't work. You can't just like coerce people into doing what's bad for them because that's not what they want. What's a much stronger thing to do, and I would not, it's kind of social engineering, but it's more collaboration. It's just like talking to people, offering your skills, and like that's basically it. Like getting people to collaborate with you. You hype them up a little bit maybe if they're the type of person that likes that, but that's basically it. It's like just collaboration, and you could call that social engineering, but it's like I don't know. Like if you read How to Win Friends and Influence People, like that book didn't really click for me until now, and then I'm like, oh wow, yeah, you just really ask people like you find what the other person's autistic about. Maybe it's some girl who's interested in psychology, and then you just ask her every question about her psychology curriculum, like you're extremely interested because you are now, because you realize psychology is actually like a valid field, and that's basically it. And it comes down to basic social skills. There's no like master manipulation or anything, as much as it seems like that. Well, actually, I should say that does kind of exist. Well, not unfortunately. It's the reality of the situation is that's kind of what CEOs are. They're people who are just really good at talking to people and hyping them up, or if they're logical people, explaining why their idea is logically very sound. And those types of characters, like CEOs, that's a very valid profession, like going around getting people to connect to each other. What you don't want to do is like manipulate people into doing things that are bad for them. You're kind of just leading people in a way that's good for both of you, maximizing the happiness of you and other people. But the problem with that is like, do you really want to do that? Like, it seems like really tempting when you're like, oh wow, this is just as much of a skill as programming that like can be broken down into fundamental blocks and understood and studied, which is true, I think. But you've spent all this time programming because it's kind of what you enjoy. Like you're maybe an introvert at heart. You don't enjoy talking to tons and tons of people all the time, and like you could learn to do it, but would you really be that happy like moving other people around into different structures to accomplish things, or would you be more happy just like writing the code yourself? So I don't know, it's a tough question. Yeah, I think also at this age it's just like a lot of us are like finally, I know I am, I'm like growing up a lot pretty quickly and realizing a lot of things about the world. And there's kind of a lot of things that you're told your whole life, but you don't really like internalize until like later, and then you're like, wow, that's actually how the world is. Like those people weren't exaggerating or lying to me the whole time. That's legitimately how things are. Yeah, that's kind of one of them. But don't let all these new like exciting realizations pull you too far from your original cause, because I don't know, I would say before you hear about some new field and you're like, oh my God, that's the new thing, or before you hear about some new text editor or programming language and switch to it, like just think a lot about everything before you decide, and like give it some time so that like the immediacy bias of it doesn't like excite you too much. But I don't know, it's a very complicated world. There's many skills out there you can learn. And I think another thing that I should disclaim about social engineering and skills in general is ignorance is bliss. I was talking about this with my friend earlier, and it's like you really think about it. Like, if you are a web designer, you're a programmer, you probably get really pissed off at user interfaces now, right? Because you're like, why did they do that? That's such a horrible decision. That getting pissed off at like something will happen whenever you skill max, like our kind of personality type does. And the reason it's very dangerous for doing it with people is if you like get too good at like knowing people's emotions and like how parts of their ego play into how they act and reading body language, you get too into it, it makes you like very socially isolated because you're thinking in such different ways than the people around you. It's like Pandora's box. Like, do you really want to open that? It's like if you had Vim levels of control over your social life, you'd probably be miserable because you'd be seeing all this unoptimal stuff around you and you'd be like, oh, why didn't that guy do that? Why didn't that guy say that? He's such an idiot. It's like, and I don't know. It's the same thing with like learning to cook. Like, I've heard this from several guys who, like us, we have this personality type, right, where we get like obsessed with inanimate things and inanimate skills and then just like grind that skill until we're good at it. If you do that with cooking, apparently it can kind of mess with your taste for things. Like, you won't really be able to enjoy food that a lot of your friends enjoy. And yeah, it's just kind of the problem with being, I don't know if it's like autistic or whatever. It's like just you get obsessed with like the skill of something, and then you get really good at it, and then you start seeing how like incompetent everyone else is at that skill around you, and then you're kind of miserable. So it's like I would hesitate to do that for certain things. I thought about doing that for comedy as well. I was looking into like the fundamental blocks of comedy, right? It's like violate a certain rule, but like there's three of them. It's like violate the quality of the information you're giving someone. So like basically lie, but in like a funny way. The quantity, like omit information or give too much information, like this is poison free. This is a poison free scone. Why did I specify that? And then there's one other one that's like, I don't know, like the one I did about types, static versus dynamic types, is like kind of a misunderstanding. Those are the three fundamental types. And the problem is like if you break that down too much and you start analyzing comedy like a thing you can win, it like doesn't really, it's not fun anymore because you can't really laugh at a lot of your friends' jokes that are like kind of not within the structure of like good comedy. You're like, oh, that's you don't know what you're doing. You're an amateur. You're in VS Code like floundering around. So I don't know. The I've talked to a couple of senior programmers who, well, mainly this one guy who's like literally like the epitome of the person who watches this YouTube channel. And this is what a senior engineer is. Like a really cracked senior engineer is like guys like us and some girls sometimes who just like take things too far. And he's like, yeah, it's actually really as much as it pains me to say, it's kind of the wrong choice to go too deep on certain skills because then you're just miserable in your mastery. It's like it's lonely up at the top. I don't know. You can find other people to appreciate the skill with, and when you do, it's like, yeah, Vim guys, Vim, 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 Vim. But like the average person is like, does not understand Vim. So I don't know. It's a weird dilemma because it's like, as much as I recognize that, as much as I recognizing like skill maxing random things like leads to kind of misery when you get good at them, for the most part it's like I can't stop because it's what I enjoy. Like getting better at things and like improving everything around me is just like how I enjoy the world. That's like my hobby, is like improvement obsession. And like I'm kind of trying now just as an exercise to like not do that, but then like it becomes like how do I optimize that? Like how do I optimize chilling out? And it's like maybe this is just fundamentally who I am. I definitely do have to talk to a therapist, but like for me, I think my obsessive ADHD tendencies are like not bad. Like they could get too bad if I like demand too much control over the universe, but the fact is like I'm using that control in a way that's like healthy. Like I'm not addicted to any hard drugs or anything, and like it's working out for me. Like it makes me successful at a lot of things to be so yearning for control of all fields around me. But I don't know. I think that path also eventually leads to misery when you just have too many options or something like that. I don't know. It's a big, complicated world with tons of infinite fractal decision trees. How does anyone really know how to do anything? I guess I should probably just read more stoicism and stuff now that that's another thing. Like there are so many books that just like I read and like the words kind of went into me and like I don't know. I got them but didn't get them, but now like with this change in perspective of kind of growing up, I feel like a lot more books like Stoicism would start to make a lot more sense to me because you have to be kind of a certain age to accept certain things. It's not even a certain age, it's just like yeah, I don't know. It's really weird because I sound like I think pretty I'll sound pretty schizo to like everyone who's not had certain realizations that I'm talking about, like about social engineering and about just everything kind of being a skill you can practice. And you might not get that if you're like a younger person listening to me. You're like, what's this guy talking about? I'm trying to understand him, but like once you get to the other side of this, I think like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think like all the senior engineers in the comments like get what I'm saying here. Like they've been at a similar stage of life where they've realized that everything is a skill and they've realized lots of other things at once. But yeah, I don't know. I might just be kind of a unique case. It's hard to say. I think like I've decided like I want to be like an open source personality, you know? Like just for the sake of being a study and what this archetype of individual is like, just so like everyone can be, I don't know, aware of it, aware of our like our tendencies as like obsessive people for certain things. Yeah, because I think it's just like it's good for people to see a representation of them in some kind of media because we're like there are actually quite a lot of us but we're just kind of hidden. We don't really like look out for each other because we're not by default very social characters. But yeah, that's about it. um yeah.